Welcome to Behind the Grind, an entrepreneur think tank where we sit down with entrepreneurs and high-performing individuals to talk about their journey. My name is Jimmy O'Donovan. I'm sitting here with my co-host, Tucker Massey.
What's up, everyone? So before we start talking to our guests today, I want to give you a little background on our sponsor, Long Hollow Creatives. They're a boutique co-working and co-op studio space located at 700 North Gillimard Street. On the podcast today, on this nice Friday the 13th afternoon, we have DC Reeves. DC is the Chief of Staff of the Studer family of companies, the president and co-founder of Perfect Plain and Garden and Grain, which you probably know him from. He's got a new project going on called The Well, and he just released his first book, The Microbrewery Handbook, which is an awesome book. I just got finished reading it, and it can sort of be translated for breweries or just for your business in general. DC, how you doing?
Good, man. Fellas, thanks for having me. Yeah,
Really appreciate it.
Little muggy Friday 13th. I hope I'm not in
Yeah.
any kind of bad luck or full moon or whatever's going on. But no, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about this stuff.
Yeah. So let's before we get rolling, let's talk about your time before opening up Perfect Plain.
Yeah, sure. It's funny. It's a kind of crazy road to get to being an entrepreneur, and I think anytime I ever read about entrepreneurs who start their journey, there are some similarities, which a lot of times, you don't plan your whole life to be one or know exactly where you're going to go. When people ask me about my book, I would have bet $1 million my first book would have been on like Alabama football or something like that I was doing for a living, where I was writing for a living.
Yeah.
And so who would have thought it would be about opening a beer business? But I grew up in Pensacola. I went to Catholic, went to Florida, and spent since I was 16 my entire life trying to be the best sports writer I could be. And when you have that entrepreneur blood in you, after 10 years of doing that, and
It's not enough.
Right, exactly. I went back to Florida State to cover FSU football professionally, then University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa at the Tuscaloosa News. As I joke, had Nick Saban yell at me a couple times as part of your ingratiation into sports journalism up there. And, but I always kind of had that bug that I think a lot of entrepreneurs have that are listening out there now, which is I like to eat what I kill. And I like, I never considered myself an excellent writer. I never considered myself, my English teacher in high school would not said, man, this guy's going to be a journalist one day. Right. Yeah, I think I like to outwork people and out research. I was a better reporter than I was a writer. That's what I would say. So I was able to break news and do things like that and have a career I was proud of, because I was able to just out hustle people, which of course, if you want to open your own business, is very valuable.
Translates.
Hand in hand.
Yeah. So when you're writing twice as many articles or you're winning more awards, and the newspaper business or the journalism business doesn't necessarily reward you that way, the way an entrepreneur does, which is, I'm willing to outwork anybody, but at the end of the day, it's the same paycheck or the same. You get a little bit of juice from winning an award or something like that. But when Quint had reached out to me and about a job down here, it's not that I had ever had a plan for Perfect Plain, or that even at that point, but I just kind of felt like if I was ever going to be an entrepreneur or have that opportunity, whatever it was, I just felt like coming back home where I was familiar with the market and certainly familiar with people that lived here, that would be the best grounds to do so. So even at that point, I didn't even know what it was going to be. But I just knew that eventually, if I wanted to start something for myself or on my own, that's where it would come from.
Coming from journalism, where and how did he bring you down? What was that pitch?
Yeah, exactly. So I knew Quint loosely. Actually, if you go in his office, the article on the front of the newspaper where they announced that they were going to bring the Wahoos to Pensacola, the AA team, I wrote it. So it's kind of funny. So I had the byline on the article quoting Quint, whatever that would have been, 2011 or something, 8 or 9 years ago. So we certainly neither one of us ever thought that it would be what it is now, but we knew each other. And so I think, he kind of loosely followed my career, just followed me on Twitter or something like that. And so I was running websites for these newspaper outlets outlets, and so he asked me a lot about social media, and he said, hey man, when you come back to Pensacola one day, like I want to sit down and learn like the things that you guys do and how you do them, and kind of pick my brain about that. And I guess that was kind of the attraction point of just how we were using social media to market. And so we talked about that, and he said if there was ever anything that would come up, and it's not even that I was looking. Certainly, if I was going to continue my journalism career, it's not to come back to Pensacola, right? It would be you go to Chicago or Charlotte or
almost
start
like he was scouting you in a sense.
Yeah, exactly, and that's really what it was. I mean, nothing was promised, nothing was expected. It didn't say, hey, if this sounded good, I might have a job for you. It was just I just did it because he asked me to. So a few months go by, and we kind of stay in loose touch, and then at this time he had Blab TV, was leasing Blab TV, and so he said, hey, look, we're talking about expanding programming here, but he said, and this is really what sold me to do it, is he said, let me be clear, like everywhere in my career when I started the Studer Group, I find the who and I figure out the what. So he said, we're going to start you as the sports director at Blab TV. Now again, I'm not leaving, football writer at the University of Alabama to come to, an independent small TV station in Pensacola thinking that's a move of that in that career line.
Right.
I'm doing it because of the guy that I'm working for and his credibility and the way that I know he treats his employees and whatever growth that would be. But that's what sold me on it. Wasn't if he had really hard sold and said, hey, Blab TV is going to be the next ABC News, and I would have been like, but the fact that what I could see was if I did what I always try to do in my career, which is try to outwork people and work really hard, be diligent. Exactly. And the fact that he was open-minded, that opportunities, again, no expectation. I didn't say I want to be your chief of staff in a year, or work on these big projects that he has me working on. No expectations of that, but I liked the open, again, back to being an entrepreneur. I liked the open-mindedness of like, let's let life take us where it goes, And so it was. I did that for about a year, and then he gave up his lease at Blab, and then kind of I evolved my roles. I was doing some marketing, of course, for him, like right after that, and then it's evolved all the way to today, which is ultimately the way people say, what does chief of staff for Studer Family Companies means? And I said, Quint comes up with this big crazy idea of something that he wants to do, and he says, go figure out how to do it, which I love.
That's gonna be awesome.
And it's kind of, again, another parallel back to my reporting days. That's what I did for a living. I mean, if I was going to do a story on Tucker and Jimmy, I may not know anything about them. So I go research and we go figure out how to do it and and I don't want to sound stupid in an article and have a factual error. And so, that process is very familiar to me, to go take something that I don't know much about and then go into something and make it something that I try to become an expert in, or make it look like I'm an expert in, at least. It was an interesting way to get down here. And again, none of that was with any plans to be an entrepreneur, or to say that, hey, I'll get down there a year and then I'll just start this brewery. I've always thought since I was a kid I was going to open. It just wasn't that way. It was just, opportune time and relationships that helped lead to Perfect Plane.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and transition into that.
Yeah.
I mean, every guy talks about, brewing beer in his garage.
Right.
Yeah. So was that something that's always been in your mind?
I drink. I'm a better beer drinker.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's an interesting story because any entrepreneurs out there, and if they haven't, they should read that book I mentioned in mine called E-Myth Revisited, where they talk about how the technician opens the place most of the time. The brewer opens the brewery, the baker opens the bakery, and that there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, there's plenty of successful businesses that have opened that way.
You have a lot of people that chase their passion in what they do.
Correct.
Right.
But just because I know how to bake a cake doesn't mean I know how to operate a business, right? And there's so many other things to it, and that's where most people, and I would make the case, I have no research to back this up, but I would imagine if we went and interviewed the last 50 businesses that failed in Pensacola, Florida, or any town USA, what it would be is, man, I knew how to cook a great steak, but I knew nothing about accounting.
That's really funny because when we just interviewed Tiffany Pham not too long ago, she referenced that book.
Oh yeah.
I feel like a lot of successful entrepreneurs like have that book in their, on
Yeah.
their shelf that they've read before. And me personally reading it, that was an awesome book.
Yeah.
To read and to learn from.
It spoke to me, but especially because, to your question, Jimmy, what was unique about me is I did not come from the beer technical world. I didn't do it because I love brewing, where my passion is kind of twofold for Perfect Plan and why I started it. One is all of that traveling that I did as a writer, going to road games all over the place. I would go to these bigger communities, the Raleighs and Knoxvilles and Baton Rouge and whatever, and be there on a Friday night before I'm going to cover a game. And I go to these awesome brewery experiences, and I'm like, man, why can't we have that? Like what reason could Pensacola not have this or not support it? Because I just kind of fell in love with that. I think of Birmingham, like good people in Birmingham, right across the street from the AA baseball stadium. Just a warehouse, just feels immersive and just a cool vibe. So I really fell in love with the craft beer experience. That's what I like about it. I would not have opened another business. It's not like, oh, well, if craft beer didn't work out, I'll do a restaurant. I would never have done that. It had to be that, because it's what I was passionate about. And what I just knew would work here, just as it was just a gut feeling that it was something, this kind of industry forward, more immersive kind of feel when you're hanging out at a brewery. Just, you saw it in big cities and just hadn't been here. So that was one part of the passion. And the second is certainly to do something for Pensacola, because I'm from here. Along that same analogy, I would have never opened a brewery in Tuscaloosa or Indiana or whatever. I mean, it was the fact that I was comfortable with this market, and I'm passionate about making this a great place, And so my passion point of why do this, why take every cent you have and put it in there, probably ego and competitiveness of saying, I think I'm an entrepreneur and I want to try to prove it.
That's a competition.
Right, exactly. So, I think that's, you got to have that, I think, as an entrepreneur. You got to be competitive, even if that's with yourself, to be able to prove that you can do it.
Right.
And, but it was that exact business and this exact location. And what helped is having Reed O'Neill, our director of brewing operations, who I became friends with when I was in Tallahassee. As a writer, he was kind of our IT guy, and so he was the guy you referenced. He'd been making beer in his garage for years, and super smart and tactful, and made great beer. And so we always joked, we were like, man, we need to open a place one day, and we never really thought we were going to open a place. We just said that,
right.
And then our stars aligned. I mean, at some point he was working an IT job that was remote. I was at this kind of transition point of Blab kind of ending, and me going into, I still had job security with Quinn. I wasn't worried that I wasn't going to be able to work for him anymore, but it was kind of that like reassessment of like what's next.
Right.
So that was kind of the end of 2016, end of 2015, kind of into 2016, where we started to kind of explore that idea and say like, is this crazy? And and we would stop if it was too crazy, and we just never stopped. So it took 2 years to get the place open, which was I reference in my book. We were chuckling at the people on the blog that said, man, this was 2 years in the making, and then there we are with Humble Pie 2 years and 15 days later when we opened our place, because we had all the answers, right? So. But it's been such an amazing journey and learning so much, and having an opportunity to kind of document all that in the book has been fun too, to even think back on all that. And so it's been such a rewarding and fulfilling thing, and it's a ton of work. It was a ton of work. All the permits, all that stuff, especially in the beer business. There are some additional challenges, but man, it's been amazing, and the community support has been amazing. So it's been a fun 2-year ride since we opened our doors in 2017.
You mentioned that brewery experience that you would see when you traveled around for football. In your book, one of the dues of programming your business to build revenue is to construct a unique and notable experience. Yeah. And as soon as you walk through the door at Perfect Plain and now at Garden and Grain, you get that experience. Yeah. How did you build that experience, and experiences, but how do you build those experiences to have a successful business?
Yeah, it's a big part of what we do, and I do think in our industry makes us a little unique because going back to the technician part, one thing when you see some breweries falter, it might be, and I'm not gonna stereotype and say it's always a brewer that opened a brewery. It could be a business person that opened a brewery too. But I think they get the priorities backwards where they say, man, if we buy the best possible equipment there is, the most expensive, top of the line, and we're gonna make the best beer, and it's not that those aren't all great things.
Right.
But then the experience becomes the afterthought, and the tap room becomes the afterthought. And then you just have your priorities, in my mind, backwards. Does that mean that beer is secondary? Absolutely not. And if you don't have you have to meet a certain level of quality. I mean,
right.
That's part. If you have a poor quality beer, then you can just get rid of the whole thing. But it's the balance of understanding that, like, it's not what's going to keep people coming back to your place. If the beer's good and the experience is terrible, people are not going to come back. Sadly, or however you want to put it, if it's opposite and you had an amazing experience and the beer is mediocre, not that that's what anybody wants or strives for, you actually have a chance to get those people back. You know, you might say, hey, they're working on it, they're a young company, they just open a month. Exactly. And so I think a big misstep in our industry as a whole is not weighing those priorities at the right amount. And maybe going too beer-centric, beer-heavy, and forgetting about what the customer wants. And so I had a couple non-negotiables when we built Perfect Plane. One was in terms of the design and the experience. One was, we wanted the garage doors, the whole open, immersive. That's something that I really liked, that you could have the doors open and have it feel that, like, pouring out onto the street kind of feel. And then the second one was to have the tanks open to the brew house. Now, that was, just for example, we spent about $23,000 on fire sprinklers in the building to be able to do that. The fire marshal doesn't like,
right.
a lot of hot and equipment that with a big burner and things like that. If you don't have that in place, so it was expensive to be able to have that, but it was important to us because I referenced good people in Birmingham. That's what I loved about it. Is like you're kind of in there with the tanks. You're not looking through a window, or there's a different thing when you kind of can walk by them and touch them, and you kind of feel like you're in it. So we had a great team. BB, who's been there from the start, who's our marketing and events manager now, and does a lot of the programming that you talk about, those experiences. Reed, myself. Have all been there, and even Nate, our GM, he was a bartender at the time only because he was bouncing between another job, but now of course he's on full-time. So we have such a senior staff in terms of people that have been there from the beginning. So we've been able to like really curate and learn lessons and about what our experiences are. And what makes us unique, and also in the beer world, is that we have a BB that is her job, I say, you wake up every day and your job is how do we get people to come in to the tap room? And so that could be private events out back, that could be programming, that could be Harry Potter trivia night, that could be, Star Wars, that could be a lot of different things.
Dress-up night?
Right, exactly.
Jimmy loves Baby Yoda.
Oh yeah, big Baby Yoda guy.
Yep. He was adopted by Spock. Right?
Anywho,
right. So anyway, I think that the programming is we invest, a full-time employee into saying how do you bring people in, and that I think what makes us unique. But we also think that we want to build a reputation for that we always have something going on. We just had a Christmas card. Make your own Christmas card night. It was packed, it even surprises us, like we're like, not that we think it's going to be bad, but you don't know. We just plan these things and want to do fun things. And it was Chrissy, who's like our head craftsman, florist, bartender, and BB kind of planned that and made example cards and construction paper and glue and all that. And so we just try to think outside the box do we want that experience? We try to think outside the box and come up with those like cool things that maybe you haven't seen around town, and that's really worked well for us.
So obviously safe to say Perfect Plane is doing well.
Yeah.
Doing so well, Garden Grain opens up,
Yep.
Event Center in the back.
Yep.
And now we have this project The Well.
Yeah, the
The
Well.
Well.
Yeah. So
Very mysterious.
I know. Yeah, I can give you some background on why we call
Let's
it
hear
that. So yeah, the Well will be ultimately, I call it our, it's like our wood cellar, beer, and cocktail playground. You know, we're gonna really be able to take. So when you go into Perfect Plane now, you see all the fooder, that big. It looks like a really big wood barrel. And all the barrels that we have with beer in them that have been aging for months, we're going to move that whole program over next door. And Nate Simmons, who runs our Garden Grain cocktail program, and you know, I always say he could bartend in New York City tomorrow. Like he's as talented a bartender, both in customer experience and skill that I've ever been around. And so. Same thing, he's going to be able to spread his wings and do his thing over there that I know is going to be super impressive. So, you know, call it an exploratorium, a playground, but we want to really like push the envelope hard on really the largest investment in a mixed culture wood cellar program that our community or our region has seen. And then, I mean, I would say at least the Panhandle, you know, and then to do some really funky and crazy. We were talking about taking an old fashioned and barrel aging that for 6 months and put that in a barrel and serve that and like do, you know, some funky barrel aged cocktails and stuff. Right. So, so that we're hoping to open by the end of 2020, you know, somewhere in that, you know, you know, hard to pick a month, but late fall. And the reason, the name of the Well comes from, there was barrels that they would send beer and wine over in the 1800s to Pensacola with beer and wine in. And so all of us Pensacolians would drink that beer and wine, and then when we were done with the barrel, we would actually put it in the ground and make a water well out of it. So actually UWF Archaeology Department's found a couple right downtown, you know, they extracted some barrels that were,
That's awesome.
yeah, you know, whatever, a couple hundred years old. So instead of calling it a barrel room or a barrel house, you know, every brewery in America calls it that, we, you know, we wanted to have a kind of, like we always try to do, we try to have like some historic tie-in to Pensacola, and plus, you know, you can say fun things like, I'm going back to the Well, you know,
awesome.
And the Well has a good cocktail connotation, even though it's not supposed to be for cheap alcohol, but we just like the name and how it sounds, and so yeah, we're very excited about that project, and it really will be that little showroom for us. What I envision for it, if we do it right, is like that's the place, you know, that a Garden and Gun comes to and talks about, you know, try to really put us on a regional map to have that, you know, a next level kind of, you know, complex bar and be part of a great bar scene and help bring more attention to our region. That's what I'm hoping for.
You know, we've talked about your team a little bit, or you have.
Yeah.
You know, we did an Instagram sort of like questionnaire, and one person wanted us to talk about how to build a team. How do you start building a team?
Yeah.
You know, so what does teamwork mean to you? And for an entrepreneur that's just getting started with their startup or side hustle, and they need to start creating a team, making a team, what are the first steps that they can take?
Yeah, that's a great question. And because the reason I can do all the things that I do is because of our team. I mean, period. If I didn't have Nate and BB and Reed and Jeff, our head brewer, and all these people that we could rely on, I wouldn't, I don't know what I'd do, you know, I mean, I couldn't do everything that I'm doing now without them. And so our team is vital. And, you know, I really think that selection, especially for young companies, can be really overlooked. And it's because, you know, if the three of us start a business and we only need to hire a couple of employees, it's easy to say, hey, you know what, we're going to work with them every day. You know, let's just, you know, Tucker, you interview them, and if they sound good, let's just bring them on. You know, everybody's got so many irons in the fire that it's easy to overlook selection and as a waste of time. Or, you know, when I tell people that we do 3 interviews for a bartender before they're hired, which is one is with the owner, one is with their direct report, and then the last one is with their peers. And the peers pick who gets hired or not. So if anybody's ever hired, once to get hired at Perfect Plane, understand that when the third interview is a peer interview, I have no more say in it. I don't care if I know you or I don't know you. If the bartenders you work with don't unanimously say give a thumbs up, then we don't hire them, and we've done that. I mean, you know, we've had people that that I was good with, and the direct supervisor was good with, but they didn't pass peer, and we respect that every time because,
That's
you know,
huge.
yeah, because we want two things to happen. One is, how can you ask your employees to have a sense of ownership when you're not there as the owner, if they aren't included in ownership decisions? If your financials aren't transparent to your staff, which ours are, they can ask me at any time. They can pull, if they say, hey, I want to see how much money we made in October, well, I'll give it to them. Because I have nothing to hide. If the worst problem I have, people say, wait a second, like, they're going to ask for a raise if they see how much money you guys are making. It's like, that's what a great problem to have. Because in reality, people don't do that. What they are is they're excited about, put yourself in those shoes. If I looked at my company's financials and Quint was doing really well, I'm not going to say, oh, I'm upset, like I demand a raise. No, I'm proud that we're doing well.
Because you're a part of that.
Exactly. And that's a good badge of honor for me to say, hey, I'm working for a successful company. So we're transparent with our financials. You talk about building a team. I think to encapsulate how do you build a great team, I think you need everybody to feel like an owner even when they're not. And that's how you select people. I think that's the standards of behavior and a mission and vision I think are super important, and a great onboarding of employees. I don't care if it's one or two, but this is our mission and vision. I show every employee we ever hire that slide that screenshot of my bank account with 53 cents in it every the day we open Perfect Plane, and I show it to them to say, you may see that I work for Quinn, or like it may come across like this is some kind of like hobby for me. I have a 5-year-old daughter and I have 53 cents to my name. This isn't a hobby.
Right.
This is like my life. Like this is, and that's why we protect it, and that's why we protect our culture, and that's why every interviewee, including one I just met with last week, comes in and I say, I'm going to tell you right now, we are picky. Like we send more emails than bars normally do. We send more texts, and we ask people to respond more than bars. We're gonna bug you, but I'm not ashamed of that. Like, because here's what we offer you. Is we hear all the things that we do for our employees. We're excited. We haven't even really talked about this publicly yet, but we're actually offering comprehensive health benefits to all of our employees starting January 1st. And as far as I know, we're the only bar within, I don't know how many miles. I don't know of another bar on the
probably a really long distance. Yeah.
So they're getting full comprehensive health, and we're paying for a portion of it. So we don't just, it's not a one-way street. So you want to build a great team. You got to be transparent with financials. You got to do the right thing. You got to keep them included in communication of what's going on with our company. They all knew about the well before everybody else did. I'm not going to put it on Instagram, and my bartenders don't know about it. So just think about that as a two-way street. What's important to you for your team, to get out of your team, and then try to balance that with what are you going to provide for their team. They're going to do these great things and go above and beyond for you. What are you providing them? Are you providing standards of behavior? Do you have structure, organization? Are you transparent? All of those things. So I think it's really a two-way street to help build a really good team.
That's awesome.
Great answer.
So we were trying to get you on a few weeks ago, and you made it a point to, hold off this interview because you went up to MIT for an entrepreneur leadership course.
Yeah, it's like a mentoring program.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. So as I introduced myself at Rotaries or wherever I'm presenting, I say this is why I live a double life. So I've got this entrepreneur life, and then I've got this working for Quint, and I tell Quint all the time that this will be the last job where I work for somebody that I'll ever have, because I can come in every day and try and make an impact on the community because of him. And it's the juice you get from that, and the excitement and enthusiasm you get from literally being able to make a community impact every day. It would be so hard for me to go back to some other job that I didn't have that.
Yeah.
So as long as he'll have me, I love working on projects like this. And this project that we're both super passionate about right now is that we're going to make this a better place for entrepreneurs. It's the time is right. It's nobody's fault. We're not saying, hey, it sucks for entrepreneurs here, but we all know while it's getting better for entrepreneurs as our community grows and people find out about it, in the same strain, there's a lot of resources and answers and information where our ecosystem for entrepreneurs needs to get better. And everybody in the ecosystem agrees with that now. I mean, this is not, you're not going to find anybody at SBDC or UWF Center for Entrepreneurship or Florida West, PSC, all these people that we're partnering with. You're not going to find anybody say, wait a second, no, it's perfect here. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So we all know it's time. And so the project I've been given with Quint is we're going to start something called the Spring Entrepreneur Hub. It's going to be on the first floor of the SEI building, the old SunTrust building on Garden Street. And it's going to have 3 legs to that stool. It's leg 1, as you mentioned, is mentorship. We polled 134 business owners. I met with about 31 people that are part of the ecosystem. Did this over about 4 or 5 months of time. So I've been on this since June. And what we figured out was through all of those meetings and that survey data, we figured out that the number 1 need was mentorship. So are there mentor programs around? Yes, but I wanted to go find the best. Yeah. And so I benchmarked. I went to Asheville, North Carolina. I went to Madison, Wisconsin, Beloit, Wisconsin, to see what right looks like. The communities that are really doing it well for entrepreneurs. And one common theme is they all were using or talking really good about or wanting to use this MIT Venture Mentoring Service is what it's called. So ultimately MIT is licensed this and they're teaching it. They've taught it to 23 different countries, 98 different communities. We're number 99. And we're going to launch this mentorship program in the spring of 2020. And so we've already hired our first full-time person, Gracie Woodfin, who's going to coordinate it. And she's great, and she really gets kick-started actually later in December. But what it is really cool. It's group mentoring. So what that means is DC owns Perfect Plane. He's accepted as a venture in this mentoring program, and he gets 3 or 4 mentors. So you go to a meeting. It's kind of the opposite of what we normally are used to. Maybe it's one mentor comes in and they're trying to help a lot of people.
For like a round table.
Right. And so what has made it success, there's a lot of details to it, and more of this will come out, of course, in the spring and stuff. But at the heart of it, what makes this MIT one successful and what we've learned is because there's so much structure to it, both for the mentors and the mentees. The mentors are expected to be able to give 1 or 2 days a month. They're expected to show up on time. If they can't show up on time for these meetings, then we ask them to not do it. They're expected to sign up and help multiple ventures at once. We know it's high expectations, and people who've mentored here before will see that and be like, man, this is kind of serious. But kind of like my last answer, what do we offer them? What we offer them is we do all the scheduling in-house in terms of Gracie and I. We're going to do all the scheduling. The mentee's going to have to send notes in or they can't schedule another meeting with their mentors. The mentors should be able to walk right in at 3 o'clock and they're done at 4:30 for their meeting, and they don't have to do anything else. We're handling all the other stuff. So we know that it's effective, and so I just call it's a mentorship program on steroids. I mean, it is going to be structure all over the place. You have to be accepted into it. When companies want to be mentored, they'll kind of go through a screening process, but then they're kind of offered up at a monthly mentor meeting, and they say, hey, here's this new brewery, Perfect Plane. Here's where they are. This is what they're trying to do. Mark on your sheet, mentors, if this is something that sounds like you want to help. So nobody gets forced to mentor anybody. It's, hey, I want to help Tucker and Jimmy with their new business, because I understand it, or I'm a banker and they have a banking problem. Whatever that would be, whatever the case may be. So we're really excited. That'll be the first part of the spring. The other 2 parts are going to be a triage in the first floor of the SEI building. That'll be in the summer. What that means is anybody who has any questions, any entrepreneurs out there listening now, we're going to be able to put you to the right place. It's truly a front door to our ecosystem. So if we do it right a year from now, everybody will say, hey, are you starting a business? You got to go to the spring first. They'll send you, they'll refer you. So not just the stuff we do, but to everybody. We want to, because right now we all know entrepreneurs in this community. That's one of the most difficult parts is, man, I need help with a business plan. What licenses do I need to get? And you kind of are. I went through it myself. I mean, And remember, I'm a researcher. I come from a research background, and it took me a long time to figure out a lot of these answers.
There's a lot of stuff you have to do behind the scenes.
A lot of stuff, and people don't realize, like, and things that you can miss, and nobody's there to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you sure? Did you do this before you did that? And so we're going to make it that triage. And then the third piece is an accelerator program. And we're working in negotiation with a company called Generator. They're based in Milwaukee. And they have a G-Beta program. What they do is it's 5 companies, but this is not, the MIT program will be a big wide cast net. It could be mom and pop restaurants, it could be gyms. Exactly, yeah. What we want is let's build the entrepreneurial muscle of our community. You know, we're not gonna pick sectors or we're only doing tech companies. It's nothing like that. Like, let's work on the entrepreneurship, again, muscle in Pensacola. That's the MIT portion. The Generator portion, when we bring them in, which this again will probably be later summer or fall, what we want to do with them is they work with 5 companies every 6 months, so 10 companies a year, but they focus specifically on high growth companies. They want, hey, you know, Perfect Plane's at 25 employees, but we think they could be at 150 in a year. Those people who are ready to scale, it's a very intense 7-week program where they're meeting with the Generator director twice a week. We're working on pitch decks. You know, what kind of Series A financing do they need? Wow. So it's a very intense accelerator. Yeah, and so why does our community need that? Because we want homegrown companies. We want people. So it's nice to help Perfect Plane, but you know, in a lot of ways, Perfect Plane has a ceiling on its impact from a job growth perspective in the community. So does a restaurant. But hey, that cybersecurity company that starts in Pensacola, and maybe they just need that little kick in the butt and here's somebody who knows how to do it. That's how you start to grow an economy, is to have these 100, 200 employee companies that are homegrown, that aren't brought here for tax incentives. They aren't brought here because they got free land. They grew up here and they love this place, and recession or not, they're going to stick it out. That's how you really grow, and really develop an economy in a city. And so that's what Quinn's passionate about, is he understands that all of this entrepreneurial work is a tactic to grow the economy in this community and make this a better place to live. So, it's a lot, but that's what we're so excited about. Exactly. Sure. So, but throughout 2020, those 3 steps will be in place to help entrepreneurs. And so I'm excited about it, because I joke with Quinn, I said, in most projects you give me, I know nothing about, the Scape Waterfront Resiliency Project, I gotta be a fast learner. This is one I know in my sleep because I've lived it. I've been through those ups and downs. I've been through the questions and trying to open a business in Pensacola. Nobody can relate to that better than me, because I just did it. And so I'm really excited and passionate about this project as much as I am about the business. Awesome. Because it's what I've been through, and I'm excited to help other people on that journey.
If one of our listeners is interested in getting involved with that in the spring, I think you said. Yeah, the spring. How would they?
Anybody can email me at dcreeves@quintstuder.com, QUINTSTUDER.com. And with any questions that you have, or when things are going to start, people you might suggest for mentors, any of those kinds of things, please feel free. And we get emails all the time, just people saying, hey, I heard you at Rotary, I've got a friend that's opening a business, where do they go for this? I love doing that stuff. As I said, I'm call it paying it forward or whatever it is, but I'm passionate about taking those people, because I wanted that. And I had that with Quinn and Bert Thornton from Waffle House. I had great mentors, don't get me wrong, but a lot of those steps I took on my own that now I'm hoping to fill those with this project that we're on. So please feel free to reach out. Any questions I can help answer, or anybody I'm passionate about anybody growing a business here. So, please let me know.
Awesome. As we start to wrap up, what is one 5-year goal you have for yourself and your businesses, and then in 10 years, where do you see yourself?
Man, I don't know. I'm working 1 year at a time right now. I'm thinking about 2020 for me is standardization and streamlining. You get 2 years in business, and you could only say, oh man, we've been running like our hair's on fire. You could only say that for 2 years. I'm running out of time to say that. It's time to get things streamlined and standardized, and that's really the theme. my employees are sick of hearing me say that, because that's what I'm saying. Like, man, we're going to get better on inventory and merchandise. We're going to get, so that's what's on my mind right now, is in terms of a short-term growth. But 5 years from now, I hope
Reeves family of companies.
yeah, that'd be nice. But yeah, I think if you've read the book, we're looking into doing some distribution, but at a very limited scale. It's not going to be a money maker for us. It would be that we would actually control our own distribution, and we would kind of hand select where that beer goes, and we in the places that we want it to go, and helping to drive more interest and traffic back into the tap room. I hope in 5 years maybe we would have another Perfect Plane location open. One of the rules in Florida that is advantageous for breweries is we're allowed to have 7 off-site locations in the state, and distribute to ourselves. I don't have to sign a lifetime distribution contract or anything like that. I can, if we had one on Pensacola Beach, for example, we could make the beer in downtown, put it on a truck, drive to the beach, simple as that. So I really hope to have another location, at least one more somewhere, and to continue to expand and